Okay, look, I know how that title sounds. I get it. On paper, I'm the villain, the crazy, insecure fiancé who blew up her own life. My DMs are probably already a dumpster fire. And maybe I am all of those things. But before you cast your final judgment, you have to understand my fiancé, ex-fiancé, Cormac. To everyone else, Cormac was flawless. He was a physical therapist, his hands gentle and steady, the kind of man who remembers your coffee order after you mention it once and can assemble a nightmarish piece of IKEA furniture without a single curse word. He was my rock, except for one tiny, maddening flaw that chipped away at my sanity daily. The man was an Olympic-level champion of passive aggression. We never fought. Not in a healthy, screaming match-then-make-up kind of way. Instead, if I did something that bothered him, say I was 10 minutes late or I disagreed with him on which caterer to book for the wedding, a wall of polite, chilling silence would descend. His answers would shrink to clipped, single-word responses. Fine. Okay. Sure. He wouldn't touch me, not in an angry way, but in a distant, preoccupied manner, as if I were a piece of furniture he had to navigate around. It would drive me absolutely insane. I'd beg him, literally plead with him, to just yell at me, to tell me what was wrong so we could fix it. But he'd just give me that calm, slightly wounded look and say, "Nothing's wrong, babe, I'm just tired." This probably wouldn't be a deal-breaker for a normal person, but my wiring is shot. My last serious relationship ended when I found out my ex of 3 years was sleeping with my then-best friend. The betrayal wasn't a loud explosion. It was a slow, creeping cancer of secrets and lies I'd willfully ignored because I wanted to believe the best. So for me, silence isn't golden. It's the sound of a clock ticking down to disaster. It's the sound of secrets being kept. And with Cormac, in the months leading up to our wedding, my life had become deafeningly, terrifyingly silent. As the wedding date loomed closer, just 3 months away, the pressure cooker of my anxiety started to hiss. Cormac began spending more time with my family, which, on the surface, was a wonderful thing. But it was his blossoming friendship with my younger sister, Ren, that started to plant poisonous seeds in my mind. They just clicked. It wasn't anything overt, just a series of small, intimate moments that made me feel like I was watching them from behind a pane of glass. At a family dinner, they discovered a mutual love for a niche British sci-fi show I'd always found boring. They spent 20 minutes quoting lines and laughing, a full, genuine laugh from Cormac that I hadn't heard directed at me in weeks. I just sat there, smiling stiffly, feeling like a stranger at my own table. A normal person would see this and be thrilled. But my trauma-addled brain, the one that still flinched at shadows, twisted it into something sinister. Every shared laugh felt like a secret code. Every easy conversation felt like a confirmation that he could be open and happy, just not with me. It started to feel eerily familiar. A ghostly echo of how my ex and my former best friend used to be, all inside jokes, and you just had to be there, moments that slowly, deliberately excluded me. This anxiety was amplified by his behavior at home. The wedding planning was stressful, and his passive aggression was in overdrive. I'd ask him if he preferred the navy blue or the charcoal gray for the groomsmen's suits. He'd glance at the swatches for half a second and say, "Whatever you think is best, honey," before immediately turning his attention back to his phone. But his approval was hollow. When I later excitedly told him I'd put the deposit down on the navy, he just nodded slowly and said, "Cool," with all the enthusiasm of someone confirming a dentist appointment. The familiar chill descended. That night, he fell asleep on the couch, leaving me alone in our bed, the silence screaming at me that I'd made the wrong choice. I started to connect imaginary dots, weaving them into a tapestry of betrayal. His avoidance of conflict wasn't just a personality quirk, it was a strategy. He was hiding something. His effortless rapport with Ren wasn't just friendly banter. It was the beginning of an emotional affair. The narrative in my head became terrifyingly clear. He was unhappy with me, too cowardly to admit it, and was finding solace in the one person he knew would destroy me. I convinced myself that since he refused to give me the truth, I had no choice but to excavate it myself. I had to verify his loyalty, to prove to myself that the monster in my head was just a ghost. I had to test him. It felt less like a choice and more like a necessity for survival. The decision, once made, took on a terrifying momentum. It felt less like a conscious choice and more like I was a passenger in my own body, watching my hands perform these alien actions. I drove to a sketchy convenience store on the other side of town, the kind with faded posters and a flickering fluorescent light, and bought a prepaid burner phone. The whole time, a frantic voice in my head was screaming, "What are you doing? This is insane. You're about to burn your entire life to the ground. Just talk to him." But another, more powerful voice, the one that sounded like the ghost of my ex, whispered, "He won't tell you the truth. They never do. This is the only way to protect yourself, the only way to know for sure." I sat in my car in the store's grimy parking lot for what felt like an hour, the plastic packaging of the phone slick with sweat in my hands. I was meticulously justifying it to myself, building a case in the court of my own mind. This wasn't a betrayal, it was an insurance policy. It was a scientific experiment with a control group of one. My hypothesis: Cormac was emotionally cheating. My method: this anonymous text. The best case scenario was that Ren would immediately show me the message or text back, "Who is this?" Or, even better, call Cormac on his real number and ask what the hell was going on. Then I could finally exhale, finally silence the paranoid whispers in my head. The relief would be so immense it would make this whole sordid exercise worthwhile. I could throw the phone in a dumpster and walk back into my life, secure. The worst-case scenario, well, the worst-case scenario was that she'd respond with intrigue, that she'd play along, that my gut feeling would be proven right. And as twisted as it sounds, a small, sick part of me craved that outcome. It wanted the validation. It wanted the proof that I wasn't just a crazy, jealous fiancé, but that I was perceptive. That the silence really did mean something. With trembling fingers, I activated the phone. The cheap plastic felt foreign and dirty. I scrolled to Ren's contact, which I knew by heart, and typed it in. My thumbs hovered over the keypad. What do you even say? How do you impersonate the man you're supposed to marry? I couldn't be too obvious. It had to be his voice, gentle, a little reserved. I settled on something I thought was clever, something that sounded like him, but was just ambiguous enough to be deniable. I wrote, "Ren, using this number for something private. Just wanted to say, having you around lately has been a real bright spot." I stared at the words, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought I might be sick. It was the perfect bait. It was friendly, but the context of the secret number made it conspiratorial. It was a test for both of them. Would she question it? Would she tell me? I held my breath and pressed send. The message disappeared into the ether with a soft whoosh. In its place, an immediate and suffocating wave of dread washed over me. I had just lit a match, and I had no idea what was about to burn. The hours that followed were a special kind of hell. The burner phone sat on the passenger seat next to me, a silent black rectangle radiating pure menace. I drove around aimlessly, unable to go home. Every phantom buzz in my pocket made my stomach clench and my heart leap into my throat. Ren didn't reply. Not a "who is this?" or an angry "stop messing with me." Nothing. The silence from the burner phone was 1,000 times worse than Cormac's. It was a blank canvas onto which my panicked mind painted its most terrifying masterpieces. Maybe she was flattered. Maybe she was trying to figure out how to respond without being disloyal. Maybe she and Cormac had a secret code, and she was waiting for his signal. I pictured them meeting up, him explaining it was a joke, them laughing together at my pathetic insecurity. By the time I finally forced myself to go home, I was a wreck. I parked the car, ran inside, and shoved the burner phone deep into the bottom of my closet, burying it under a pile of winter sweaters as if it were a murder weapon. I tried to compose myself, splashing cold water on my face, practicing a normal, cheerful "hey, honey" in the mirror. But the face looking back at me was pale and haunted. The air in our apartment felt different, thick and heavy, charged with an energy I had never felt before. Then I heard his keys in the front door. The sound, usually so comforting, was like a gunshot. I walked out of the bedroom just as he stepped inside. My practiced greeting died on my lips. He didn't come over to kiss me. He didn't even meet my eyes. He just walked past me into the living room, his shoulders so tense they looked like they were trying to meet his ears. He placed his keys on the little ceramic dish by the door with a sharp, definitive clink that echoed in the silence. He still didn't say a word. He walked over to the coffee table, picked up his own phone, and placed it down in front of me, screen up. The screen was lit, and on it, I saw my own toxic words staring back at me. It was a screenshot from Ren. There was my pathetic, manipulative message. Ren, using this number for something private. Just wanted to say, having you around lately has been a real bright spot. And underneath it, a new message, one from Ren to Cormac's real number. Her words were simple and devastatingly loyal. Cormac, is this you? This is really weird, and I'm kind of scared. My blood ran cold, the floor seemed to drop out from under me. He knew. Of course, he knew. Ren had done exactly what a loyal sister and a decent human being should do. She hadn't replied to the creep. She had gone directly to the man she trusted. Cormac slowly lifted his head and finally looked at me. There was no anger in his eyes, no rage, no fire. There was just nothing. A flat, dead emptiness that was more terrifying than any shouting match could ever be. It was the look of a door that had been permanently locked. His voice was quiet, devoid of all emotion, when he finally spoke. This was you, wasn't it? The question hung in the air, a simple, four-word death sentence. My mind went into overdrive, desperately searching for an escape route, a plausible lie, any branch to grab onto as I fell. It was a wrong number. A prank. A virus. But looking at his face, at the chilling certainty in his eyes, I knew there was no point. The dam of my justifications and self-pity broke, and everything came pouring out in a pathetic, incoherent flood. Yes, but you don't understand. The words tumbled out, frantic and overlapping, my voice cracking. It was because you never talked to me, you shut me out, Cormac. For weeks, it's been one-word answers and you falling asleep on the couch. I'd ask you what's wrong and you'd just say you were tired. What was I supposed to think? I was going crazy. I was pacing now, my arms flailing, gesturing wildly around the room that was supposed to be our future home. I was the victim in a tragedy only I could see. And the way you are with her, you laugh with her, you talk to her, you're present with her. With me, it's just silence. This cold, empty silence that reminds me of him. The name of my ex caught in my throat. I had to know. After what happened before, I couldn't go through that again. I was just so scared of being betrayed, of being the stupid, trusting fool one more time. I expected him to argue, to defend himself, maybe even to finally get angry and give me the fight I'd been craving for months. But he just stood there, his hands in his pockets, watching me unravel. He let me exhaust myself, let my frantic excuses and blame-shifting peter out into ragged, hiccuping sobs. When I finally fell silent, wiping hot tears from my face with the back of my hand, he spoke again. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through my hysteria like a surgeon's scalpel, precise and cold. This wasn't about me, he said, his tone eerily calm. This was about you. Have I been distant? Yes, I have been stressed about the wedding finances. I have been tired from taking on extra shifts to pay for the honeymoon you wanted. I haven't been a perfect communicator. But my red line, the one thing I cannot and will not tolerate, is a fundamental lack of trust and respect. And you just took a sledgehammer to it. He took a slow breath, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, not anger, but a deep, profound hurt that was somehow worse. You didn't just test me, he continued, his voice dangerously steady. You set a trap. You used an anonymous number to impersonate me and sexually harass your own sister. Let's call it what it is. You didn't do that to find the truth. You did that because you wanted to find a reason to justify the ugly story you'd already written in your head. You needed me to be the bad guy, so you wouldn't have to face the fact that you are the one who is broken. He looked at me, really looked at me then, and it felt like he was seeing straight through all my bullshit, right into the terrified, damaged core of me. I cannot marry someone who thinks so little of me. I cannot build a life with someone who would do something so cruel and manipulative. He picked up his keys from the dish, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. We're done. Done? The word felt foreign, nonsensical. What do you mean, done? Cormac, no, we can fix this. We can go to therapy, I'll do anything. I lunged forward, grabbing his arm, but he flinched away from my touch as if I were white-hot. The rejection was a physical blow. There is nothing to fix, he said, his voice flat. He walked into our bedroom, and I stumbled after him, my pleas turning into desperate, ugly sobs. He pulled a duffel bag from the top of the closet, the one he used for weekend trips, and started methodically opening drawers, pulling out t-shirts, socks, underwear. He moved with a calm, detached efficiency that terrified me. It wasn't the frantic packing of an angry man. It was the deliberate action of someone who had already left in his mind. "Please, Cormac, don't do this," I begged, clutching the doorframe. "It was a mistake, a stupid, horrible mistake. I love you." He didn't even look at me. He just zipped the bag shut and walked towards the door. "The mistake," he said, pausing for a moment, "was me thinking you loved me. You don't. You love the idea of being safe, and you just proved you will burn down anything and anyone to feel that way." He left the room, and a moment later, I heard the front door click shut. I stood there, frozen, for how long I don't know. The silence he left behind was absolute. Then, a surge of panic so intense it made me dizzy. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. I called his number. It rang once, then went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I tried to send a text, a frantic jumble of "I'm so sorry" and "please come back." But it came back with a delivery failure notification. Blocked. My world narrowed to a single pinprick of hope. Ren, she could talk to him, she could explain. I scrolled to her name and hit call. She answered on the second ring, but her voice was not her own. It was thin and brittle, heavy with tears. "What do you want?" she whispered. "Ren, thank God, you have to talk to him. You have to tell him it was a stupid test, that I'm not crazy, I was just scared." "How could you?" She cut me off, her voice cracking with a pain that ripped through me. "How could you think that of me? That I would ever with your fiancé? You didn't just test him, you tested me. And you made me feel disgusting and scared in my own home. You're my sister." Her words were the final blow. It wasn't a slap in the face, it was a quiet, devastating realization. I hadn't just lost Cormac. In my insane quest to prove a phantom betrayal, I had created a real one, shattering the trust of the two people I cared about most. Now, I'm sitting alone in my apartment. The silence is no longer a weapon Cormac uses. It's just a fact. It's the sound of the air conditioner humming, the buzz of the refrigerator, the hollow echo of my own breathing. The wedding invitations are still on the dining room table in a neat little stack, their crisp white edges mocking me. Our smiling faces are on the save-the-date magnet on the fridge. I look like a stranger to myself, a happy, hopeful woman from another lifetime. My mind is a broken record, stuck in a torturous loop. 1 second, a wave of white-hot anger crashes over me. If he had just talked to me, if he wasn't so emotionally constipated, none of this would have happened. He pushed me to this. Then, just as quickly, the anger recedes, leaving behind the jagged rocks of regret. How could I have been so stupid? So destructive? I see my thumb pressing send on that burner phone over and over again, a single, catastrophic moment that torched my entire world. My phone is a useless brick in my hand. I open up a new message to Cormac. I type, "I'm so sorry, I know I'm broken. Please let me fix it." My thumb hovers over the send button, but I know it won't go through. I delete the message. I start again. "You were right about everything." Delete. "I hate you for leaving." Delete. It's a pointless ritual of penance. I am a ghost haunting the ruins of a life I demolished myself. Trapped in the wreckage I created, forever caught between blaming the man who wouldn't speak and despising the woman who refused to listen.